Why is the Middle East so unstable? Today, I will go through the history of the instability of the Middle East and how that is correlated to the modern day instability of the Middle East. So, it all started when the Middle East was home to one of the cradles of civilization, which means that region would have a lot of history. However, that means that it had a lot of problems. From the ancient Sumerians, the ancient Egyptians, to many, many Mesopotamian empires and countries, kingdoms, rising and falling, and that means a lot of conflicts are in the Middle East, almost more than anywhere else in the world. This video that I'm making is basically starting from when Rome conquered half of the Middle East and ruined all of Rome's land, except the areas on the Italian peninsula, basically, which we all know. Therefore, the Middle East became very unstable, but nowhere near as unstable as Western Europe, which then led to the Western Europe breaking away, barbarians, yeah, we know, from the Roman Empire, and then Rome's downfall led, of course, to the Byzantine Empire, as we all know, formerly known as the Eastern Roman Empire, which is the predecessor and owned the Middle Eastern and Anatolian lands that Rome had. Although, some parts of what we call the Middle East that were under Roman control didn't go to the Byzantines, which led more conflict between the Byzantines and, of course, the various Middle Eastern tribes. And that was from the third to seventh centuries. At this time, hundreds of nations in the past, before this, and during this time, fought more and more, making this region even more unstable, like more than anywhere else in the world. Like I said. Uh, However, one of the biggest dividers in the entire region was the introduction of a religion that everyone's heard of, called Islam. I won't go into the history of Islam and all that because it's a lot, and if you've been to school, if you've been to high school, you learned it. But Islam started in the 17th century, and Arabs dominated, pushed the Byzantines back, and basically had control of the entire Arabian Peninsula, which is like three-fourths of the Middle East. It was fine until the Seljuks ruined it. Around this time, the Great Arab Split happened as well, which was also a massive divider, probably the biggest reason why there's still conflict in the region into Sunni and Shia Muslims. Sunni Muslims are the ones who think that just like anyone can be in power, and the Shias are ones who think that if you are just a descendant of like Muhammad, then you should be it. I know I wasn't getting into the history and all that, but I just felt like saying that, even though that's not in my script. All that added to the chaos in the region. But later, like five centuries later, in the 1200s, the Mongols, after taking China, Central Asia, Russia, the Koreas, a lot more, came to siege Persia and other Middle Eastern areas like Baghdad and the Anatolian Peninsula. That lasted about a century until the Mongols collapsed, and there spawned many small kingdoms. A certain kingdom that we've all heard of. Oh my god, what could it be?
Oh my god, it's America.
Oh my god,
What could
oh
it
my
be?
god.
I really don't know.
It is called the Ottoman Empire, which, after defeating the Byzantine Empire and taking over Constantinople, grew enormous, with around it just a bunch of basically free land from when the Mongols died, because it's just small tribes and stuff. So the Ottomans grew enormous. However, they weren't the only ones who grew in power from when the Mongols died, because right next door in what's modern day Iran, the Safavid Empire came into power as well. Uh, they are the Shia Muslim, while the Ottoman is the big Sunni Muslim empire. And they got a lot of fights. The Safavid Empire had, of course, Persia, Iraq more. Ottoman Empire had like Jerusalem, Egypt, of course, Turkey, parts of Europe. Yeah, we all know. This was around the time when Chinese gunpowder began to massively develop, and then cannons, stuff, all that. I'm not going to go into it, but the Ottomans destroyed the Safavids, and then they both got a huge rivalry, just strengthening the hate between Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims. So that explains a lot more today, and they became mortal enemies forever on. The Ottomans proved their rule even more by taking most of the Balkans in Europe and ruining the Kingdom of Hungary, and eventually being pushed back by Hungary. Both these empires grew many enemies, like the Russians, most of Europe with the Ottomans, and just everyone with the Safavids. Western Europe has been growing their maritime empires drastically, and soon the British, they took they wanted everything. They just took all the islands, but they soon got their eyes on the Middle East. So then the British took states on the Gulf Coast, now known as Qatar, Bahrain, and areas around the United Arab Emirates, and of course later Oman and Yemen. And the French, which are also in Western Europe, like we all know, were they had their eyes set on the Syrian land. I don't know why, they just did. At this time, the Safavids have died, and the Persian Empire came into play. Yeah, in the year 1900, getting into the modern history, because I'm skipping the older history, the countries coexisting in the Middle East were basically just the Ottoman Empire, the Persian Empire, the French Empire, the British Empire, and a few states in modern day Saudi Arabia. So the Ottomans were surrounded and weak compared to everyone else. Then came the Great War, World War One. This war was huge for the Middle East. The Ottomans collapsed and died because they were outmatched and they were disbanded. Balkan states got independence, and France and the United Kingdom got lands. The French got Lebanon and Syria. And the UK got modern day Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, and most importantly, what was the Palestinian territories. I'll get back to that later. Over the next few decades, these Arab states are trying to get independence, but their tryings are abolished. But then the Second World War started. The French and British were just focused on Germany, so then the Middle Eastern states started revolting even more. But then the French and the British were like, okay, we'll give you your independence soon after the war. Don't worry. And then the British is like, okay, we'll make a Jewish state in Palestine, so then all the Jews can go there, and it'll fix everything. Quotations around fix. These
Hey there, buddy John.
Soviets and allied countries even invaded Persia to connect lands to better beat Germany, because the Soviets were getting invaded, which then led to the Germans dying. After the World War, the Israelis, which are the Jewish, so they got all of what was Palestine, and no Islamic state agreed with, so they all did not recognize Israel. The United Kingdom ends up just leaving, and Israel had a hard future awaiting them. The Arab League, which just started, led by Saudi Arabia, grew Arab states more together and against Israel. You can tell by when Egypt, uh, to get the Sinai Peninsula back later, they agreed to recognize Israel, which then they got immediately kicked out. But then they got back in eventually, which, yeah, that makes sense because they're Arab. The stability, while not great, was doing fine in the Middle East until several states got either into a civil war or got a really bad dictator. Persia, which is now Iran, was a pretty good country, pretty nice country to everyone, until a certain Islamic dictator came into play and became a nuisance to everyone. Iraq had a similar fate, but it was a Sunni leader, and when the new ruler came into play, Saddam invaded Iran because Iran just got out of a government collapsing and all that. So Iraq, over the next like 8 years, decided free land, might as well. And then around a decade later, they had peace. So then Iraq invaded Kuwait, which didn't live that long. However, the United States came in and invaded Iraq, saving Kuwait and reinstating a new government. Then the Americans were focused on Afghanistan for a long time, which then they lost. Meanwhile, Iran became even worse, but got more powerful. And Syria and Yemen got a sudden civil war ahead of them. The other side for both was Iranian-supported rebels. Iran's major goal was to abolish the state of Israel, which led to more tensions in the region. Lebanon even got a Persian group uprising, which basically has de facto control over southern Lebanon, known as Hezbollah. The Palestinian conflicts have still been going on with many border clashes throughout decades. Israel even became a part of a war against Syria, Egypt, and Lebanon, which Israel actually won and gained the Sinai Peninsula and a part of Syria. And Jordan got the West Bank. Soon, the Sinai Peninsula was given back to Egypt, and Palestine got its lands back. But the fights didn't stop. Along with the Israeli wars, Kurdistan started to fight for its independence, which lasts to modern day. In Iraq, Iran, Syria, and biggest Turkey. And ISIS fought in Syria and Iraq, lowering their stability in the region even more. I'm not going into ISIS because I'm just not. Leading into the October of last year, I know I'm skipping a lot. I'm not making a 50-minute long video. The Hamas invasion of Israel, where it's a terrorist group supported by Iran ruled the Gaza Strip and had a big invasion of Israel, which Israel responded with war. There are many videos of everything in this topic, so go watch some of those. Instead of this, I'm not going into it. But now Israel cut Gaza in half, and Israel's getting attacked by Hezbollah, a rebellion group in Yemen, and by Hamas. Millions of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip have nowhere to go, because they can't live in Gaza or Israel. Egypt closes its borders to the Gaza Strip, and Jordan doesn't want the Palestinians, because a third of their population is already made up of Palestinians. I know, and that is about all that I'm going to go over, because all of what I just talked about basically just goes over the instability of the Middle East and everything. Ending on Palestine not being able to migrate isn't very good, but I have a time crunch. Well, kinda. So I'm just gonna end it here. I know I did do lazy on the second half, which, well, the last like fifth, which I'm sorry about. I didn't want to, but while doing this, I got I had to pause and do something and then come back to that part, and I just really lacked the motivation to do that part. So yes, so sorry, but if this does well, I'll give it my 100% next time. So, uh, I know I probably missed a lot. I'm not gonna make a 40-minute long video going into detail of the entire history of the Middle East. This was a pretty big project for me while writing this script. I hope the video turns out well. It could be something I can be proud of. If y'all want more informational videos, leave a like, subscribe, comment an idea. If you really want to see more, you need to comment an idea, because then I'll make a poll of ideas that y'all can vote, and then I'll do it. So just thank y'all for watching this, if you even want to watch it. Yes, Purple Comet from Super Mario Galaxy is my favorite video game music of all time, so that's why it's in this so much. And that may or may not be tied to another video I'm working on.